You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the March 5th meeting for the Michigan City Common Council Workshop. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
First and foremost, I would like to introduce myself. I am Tracy Tillman. I am 5th Ward City Council and Council President, and I would like to welcome you all to the March 5th, 2025 Council Joint Workshop of Michigan City Common Council. And this meeting has been called to discuss and review the following: to share information, obtain feedback, and address questions about the proposed development of a certified recovery residency facility in LaPorte County. Our guest speaker for this evening, we have Ms. Mickey Webb. She is the Executive Director of LaPorte County Drug-Free Partnership Recovery Residence Leadership Team. And again, we're discussing the Recovery Residency Initiative, and we have a few board members that is also in the audience with us this evening. And right now, I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Webb.
Thank you, Ms. Tillman. I would like to recognize our Recovery Residence Leadership Committee that is here. Greta Friedman, a local judge, Steve Eyrich, adult probation, Donnie Allison, founder and executive director of WARE, Katie Jasneski, executive director of Swanson Center, Mitch Peters, who has been providing guidance because he's done this in neighboring Porter County. I think one of the things that, for me, the disease of addiction and alcoholism doesn't discriminate. Doesn't discriminate by gender, sex, ethnicity, orientation. I would bet virtually everyone in this room has been touched in some way by someone with an addiction. Maybe a coworker, maybe a friend. But LaPorte County has some unique distinctions. This is a map that's put out by Dignity Health and Conduit Health. It's done for communities across the country, and it looks at structural indicators, and what it shows in red is the worst quartile nationally, based on structural indicators, which is indicative of a need in a specific community for a variety of different things. In terms of LaPorte County, though, this past year, coroner data says that we had 37 overdose deaths. And I know when people talk recovery residents, there's probably lots of questions like, yeah, it's a good idea, but, do we want that in our neighborhood? And a lot of worries, a lot of concerns about what that may look like. The committee has been working for the past 2 years to put the pieces together to try to solve a problem in LaPorte County, because what's unique for LaPorte County is Porter County has several, St. Joe County has several, LaPorte County does not have any certified recovery residences. What they teach you in AA or NA is you have to change your playground and playmates. What happens when people go to jail and they get out of jail, more often than not, they go right back to the same environment where they were. If they go to rehab, they get out after 28 days. Many times they will go right back to using. Our broad base of support includes, and we provided the council with a packet of the support of all key stakeholder organizations in the county and their willingness to contribute to this project. We pursued data from the State Department of Health, and this is LaPorte County data. There were 397 episodes of alcohol-related hospitalizations alone. When we think of a recovery residence, this isn't intended to be what might be identified as a flop house. As a person gets out of jail, rather than go back to the neighborhood where they might have had some problems, or if they get out of rehab and go back to where they were before, where they got in trouble before. It's intended to provide a level of support for up to 2 years, as a rehab facility might. As I mentioned, there were 37 overdose deaths in LaPorte County. The number is probably realistically closer to, not deaths, but at least 5 times that amount, if not more. Also, all deaths from the coroner are not autopsy. So this number is probably underrepresented. So the need is there in terms of this particular community. A recovery residence, and this pictures what one of the residences in Valpo, and Mitch Peters from Valpo has joined us along with their sheriff to talk about some of their experiences with their facility, to see that it blends into the neighborhood. It's intended as more like a home-like setting. But our intent is for a certified level 3 recovery residence. What that is it's monitored by the State of Indiana Department of Mental Health and Addictions. There's policies and procedures that they follow. The individuals, the referral process for the people coming into this home, they would be accepted, they would be screened, they would be vetted, where we would not just be accepting just anyone. Because the slots for people in recovery, they're too scarce. Our intent is for a facility for up to 20 LaPorte County men. There's a shortage across the state, but we want to keep it within our own community of LaPorte County. So for LaPorte County men, up to 20, with staff around the clock in the home, a resident manager, in the particular facility. Our intent would be that it would operate under the auspice of the LaPorte County Drug-Free Partnership. We're a 501c3, and what that enables us to do, that means we're a not-for-profit. That means we can apply for other funding to help keep this going. Also, as a recovery residence level 3, once state approved and state certified, we can eventually qualify for Recovery Works dollars to help keep it be sustainable. That means we're not going to taxpayers for dollars and asking for money to keep it going, because more often than not, insurance may not pay for a stay in a recovery residence. It's monitored by the state of Indiana. It's overseen by the state authorities. They come in and inspect the house. They'll look for dust bunnies behind the furnace. They will monitor our policies and procedures. They will check staff. They will assure that we're going by the book. Our intent is that we would be following not only state of Indiana policy, but the national policies of the National Association of Residential Facilities, Recovery Facilities. What the recovery residence does is it provides structured support for these individuals, for these men, for up to 2 years. They could get out of jail and go right back to the neighborhood and live right where they're at. There's nothing that says they have to come here. They could go right back out of rehab and go right back to the neighborhood. But this is the support in their recovery that they may need to help them sustain and keep them sober. Sober from alcohol, sober from drugs, and sometimes sober from using both substances. We have collaborative partners in place with the Swanson Center, with HealthLink, with 320 Recovery, with WARE, with United Way, with Unity Foundation, with PAC Center, with the Center Township Trustee. Probably key and foremost in this initiative, Ton & Blank has agreed to provide the architectural and engineering costs substantial reduction in the construction fees. Franciscan has proposed potential donation of property for the home. But the idea is that this is a home-like environment for LaPorte County men who would be vetted. And what that would mean, we would be doing background screenings on them, and with Mr. Irick and Ms. Friedman on the leadership committee, I think that they'll be able to help us vet that the individuals that go into this residence are the ones most likely who need it, but who are most inclined to be successful and committed to the process, not just someone who needs a place to stay. Part of this is we want them, with a case management approach, to become contributing members to our community. It's not a flop house where they're going to lay on the couch and play video games all day. They may be in school, they may be working or helping to find a job, or both. Helping to set up a bank account. Maybe that case manager may work with them to obtain a GED or begin college credit or begin to work with Voc Rehab, so that they're not only bettering themselves personally, but they're bettering themselves to become a better father, a better community member, a better parent, regardless of their past and life circumstance. The idea behind this is to reduce recidivism in our jails, to help break that cycle, to reduce costs to taxpayers, and offer the support so that they become better members of our community. So some interesting data from LaPorte County. 7 months out of 12 last year, we were over capacity. And this is what it costs per offender for a year. Annually, $17,000, over $17,000. With an average head count of 372, cost to taxpayers of over $6 million. If we can reduce that, even by the 20 men that were in that home, as good stewards of our dollars, of your tax dollars and mine, and I know it'll come as a surprise, but Michigan City's been where I've lived, worked, played, and prayed for over 30 years. I'm old. Don't tell anyone. But, you know, those are my tax dollars too. So if we can reduce that, it makes our city council good stewards of money. Indiana Association of Recovery Residences gives the certification for a level 3, but they operate under the Department of Mental Health and Addiction, and that's the state of Indiana. They have to certify the recovery residents, and then they do ongoing monitoring. Administration, an organizational hierarchy would occur. There would be clinical and administrative supervision, specific policies and procedures, and again, the certifications, services, life skills, clinical services, collaboration with local agencies, service hours in-house. The residences may vary on how they're set up, but the key is that it's home-like. You know, you don't want these gentlemen feeling like they're living in an institution. Staffing, there's a facility manager and certified staff or case managers. Admission and program details. Our referrals will come from the courts, from the jail, or from rehab facilities, or other behavioral health providers. But as I said, they'll be screened with standardized assessment instruments to assess where those individuals are, but also to monitor their progress in that home. Duration, up to 2 years of support, and capacity is up to 20 LaPorte County males. And I want to stress that beds are pretty high demand, and often if I have a patient that I need to send, I'm sending them to Indianapolis for a 28-day rehab stay. So having a place to be for up to 2 years, where they're monitored, where they're safe. Now I know that some of the feedback that sometimes people think, well, great idea, but do we want it in our neighborhood? This is a geo map, and it's kind of hard to see, but if you look at the little round red dots, those are needles. The yellow area is the area of the hospital. Thank you. But the needles, those are your overdose calls or drug calls by EMS. So you can't really, I don't think people can say, not in my backyard, because it is already in all of our backyards, everywhere. Kyle Shaparsky, the Drug Task Force Director, he gave me his report for this past year, and we're getting flooded with fentanyl, and most of the substances coming into the county contain fentanyl, which is highly addictive and leads to increased overdoses. As far as organizational structure, we'd operate under DMHA and NAR and NR. Drug Free Partnership as the parent organization. We propose a recovery leadership team, a recovery residence board of directors, and then also a community advisory board made up of people who are in recovery. Our collaborators, we listed a few of them here. We've also included our supporters, which without them and without those individuals, our community couldn't pull this off. Potential funding includes the Substance Abuse Mental Health Service Administration, Department of Mental Health, Health Foundation of LaPorte, and other sources. For this project, the County Council has committed and at their November meeting, agreed to contribute $750,000 to the project. Huge, but also much needed. And I guess I'm remiss in saying that I would have loved to have had this meeting much earlier before things appeared in the paper in December. At that point, we didn't know all the pieces, and we still are putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. So my apologies that information wasn't shared early on, but again, we're trying to pull this together, and it would be our intent that we also share it with other community members and in town halls. Recovery Residence Leadership Team, listing these individuals, and I think you might recognize some names. And next steps and question and answer, I want to turn it over, and I try to stay on time, with Mr. Core, Mr. Gilmore, and Mr. Peters to talk about what that house is.
Sheriff, I want the sheriff.
And the sheriff. Okay, but we're time.
Quick, I'll be quick, how's that?
That works.
I don't want to quit. I'm too shaky. My name's Mitch Peters.
Stand up, all right.
Yeah, come over here, Sheriff. The sheriff came with me today, Fort County Sheriff John Brown. I want to talk a little bit. I've been in recovery for going on 37 years this year. And I've been an attorney for 40 years, criminal defense, mental health, etc. That's my background. Your background, you're just a cop.
I'm a cop.
Well, and so here we are together again.
Yeah.
But I got involved 15 years ago. We opened Respite House 1, and I've attended a lot of meetings of this nature. I've been coming to LaPorte County now for 5 years, 6 years, advocating for this program. We have been asked to open other programs in every county surrounding Portadown. We have been, and we have helped in every instance. We have not ventured out of our lane. We've continued to develop what we're doing in Porter County, and it's a blessing. This county and Michigan City is blessed to have this opportunity. And working with Ton and Blank on the most recent project, which was a homeless shelter, a little different, you are blessed to have them in charge of the construction and helping you to put this together, because these projects don't happen just because of me. Everybody gives me all these accolades and praises, but it's people like the sheriff. And so what is it that we're doing here? You heard a little bit about addiction and the impact. We all know that impact. Our children are and young adults are literally dropping over dead as a result of the disease of addiction in our communities. And the ones that aren't dropping over dead are serving long sentences in the Department of Corrections. And Nancy Reagan, we know that just say no doesn't work. God bless Nancy Reagan, it didn't work. We know that locking them up, Ronald Reagan's idea, doesn't work either. You know, because you lock them up on these drug charges, 2 years max, and they come back. And you know, and they come back better educated in their disease. And their disease thinking has not been addressed. Even when they get programming in prison, statistics show it doesn't work. So the criminal justice system has recognized that the only answer to this is to try to provide a therapeutic approach in conjunction with accountability and responsibility, and that's what these halfway houses do. And we've developed the policies, we've operated them. We have 2 in Valpo. We now have a homeless shelter, that's a different animal. But we need treatment options within the community. And we need them accessible to people. That's why here, I saw the little neighborhood diagram. You know, I've attended these where I've had 60 people out there asking questions. What we do, I had a lady come up to me, and an older lady walking her dog in the neighborhood after Respite 2 opened, and she told me, this is the best thing that's happened in this neighborhood. It's not a house where drugs are being used. There aren't a lot of police calls. We've had 1 major police call in 15 years, and that was last year. We had an overdose death in the house. And it's the first one, and it impacted us. Of course, it impacted all of the residents, but we don't have police calls. We've had a noise call. A guy playing his radio too loud, the lady yelled at him, so he called the police. That became a noise call. Every now and then, they'll vape underneath the smoke detectors, and the fire department will come. But we don't have problems. We run these things very disciplined. The rules are very clear. Accountability, 0 tolerance for drugs, 0 tolerance for not coming home on curfew, 0 tolerance for leaving in the middle of the night, 0 tolerance for fighting, 0 tolerance for theft. If you don't make your bed, you're going to get a demerit. If you do it 5 times in a row, you're going to write an essay. But, you know, that's not the behavior we're concerned about. We're concerned about changing their criminal thinking. And that's what this process entails. They're there from 6 months to 2 years, and you hope that you change them. And I have success stories, and I have miserable failures. I've attended, you know, weddings, graduations. I get texts very frequently. I just celebrated 5 years. I just celebrated 7 years, you know. So it's a blessing. This is a blessing to be a part of this. And we are supporting, let's see, we don't take violent offenders or sex offenders. We have video surveillance throughout, not in their bedrooms, of course, but throughout the hallways. The doors make an alarm if somebody leaves off hours, and they can leave, they just can't come back. That's the rule, and they know that. We're not the police. If they want to go, they're there voluntarily. They want to be there. That's the key. These are people that are seeking recovery. When you have someone in that instance, you need to have something to provide for them, because if they don't get it quick, they're gonna use. We have them sign in and out, we do diagnostics, MMPI, drug testing, random or upon a suspicion, or if they have an overnight pass, because eventually they can use those. They do daily chores. Most of them come directly from the Porter County Jail. Most of them are minor drug offenses. Most of them are young adults, 22 to 35. We don't have issues. We want to enhance the communities and the neighborhoods. That's what this is providing for. Drugs are running rampant in this community, in our community. I don't know, Sheriff, what's the percentage of drug arrests? I know about 90%, 95% of people in the jail have substance use disorder issues. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely.
What you've experienced Respite House, and they're following the same model. We have provided them with all of our policies, our procedures, our floor plan, and we've enhanced that because I made mistakes building.
Yes.
Go ahead.
All right, well, I don't know how much more I can say than what Mitch already followed up with, but here's what I would tell you guys. You know, my job, before I was a sheriff, I was the chief of police at Valpo PD. All right, so I was there as the chief when Respite 1 was already there, was already established, and then once I became chief, shortly thereafter, Respite 2. And where it was proposed to be built, there were concerns, right? And there's a lot of concerns, and they're rightful concerns on what the community feels. Is it just another extension of a drug house? Is there calls for service? Is there crime? Is there an uptick in all of that? And that is completely justified questions. What I can tell you is prior to that, before that house was approved and before the second house was built, I pulled the numbers of Respite 1. And they were at a complete minimal for calls for service, like Mitch said. Okay, so then, after Respite 2 was developed, Mitch asked me to be part of the board, all right? So anytime a defense attorney asks a cop to be a part of something, you gotta side-eye it a little bit, right? You gotta say, okay, what's the angle, what's the motive, right? Well, what I found out is that was probably a very, very good move that Mitch did. Because I think if this goes through and it happens, I think you should have some form of law enforcement on the board in some capacity, all right? Because it becomes a communication tool with the board. Because the law enforcement perspective is going to know what the policies are. They're going to know if there's an uptick in calls for service, if there's an uptick in crime. What I can tell you is that I support it 100%. Just in case the temperature had changed, once I left Valpo PD and became the sheriff in '23, I called the chief of police and I asked him, are you seeing concerns? Are you seeing issues since I've left? The answer is no, okay? Because I don't want to get up in front of you guys and talk about the public safety perspective without having current and relevant information. And so today I called Mayor Costas and I asked him, I said, look, I want to hear your perspective. What do what's your thoughts? Is this how, are you having the same thoughts and the same feelings as you did years ago when you supported the initial project? And he said, absolutely, as long as it continues down the path that it's going now. And that's what the board has, the rules. Everybody needs to have accountability. Everybody has to have some rules in place, okay? That's just kind of what society is. And that's what it's designed, and that's how it's designed. I have 2 social workers at the sheriff's office. And I have case managers, behavioral specialists inside the jail. I have 2 social workers outside the jail that deal with and make that transition. And I did ask, I said, do you have a number for the recidivism of people that leave and come back? And what she felt safe to tell me is this, and this is another component. All this is dealing with just processes. We have a lot of classes inside the jail. Okay, we have anger management, substance dependency, financial training. We have religious studies, all that, and what they said is that we don't have the exact number, but what we can tell you is when you have that robust therapeutic services inside the jail and the inmates are involved in that before they go to respite, it's a reduction in them coming back, all right? And so it's a process, it's a complete community-wide process. So what I can tell you from my perspective as from public safety is that if the rules are in place and then you've got a good set structure, it's a good thing. There's not an uptick in crime in your communities, okay, with that in that neighborhood. I even reached out to one of the community members that was opposed to Respite 2 being built in that community. Okay, and she's very involved with the children in the community, with you know, the I would say.
She has a
low
daycare,
income-
doesn't she? Daycare?
Yeah, and I, you know, so I
know who
I don't want
it
to,
is.
you know who I'm talking about, and I didn't ask if I could use her name, so I don't want to give her name, but what I can tell you is she's completely entrenched and involved with the community of Respite 2 around that. And she says, I was against it, and I'm now for it. And that's all, you know, and that's my, I'm not saying do this or don't do this, I'm giving a perspective from public safety, okay? And how it's affected Valpo and Porter County. So if you guys have any questions for me, I'm more than happy to answer them.
And me too. And I've got one closing thing, all of our staff, we operate on a small budget. The budget to operate these things is about $150,000 a year. We bring the staff up through the house, but they're all trained in mental health, de-escalation, first aid, CPR, Narcan training. I mean, and it's not just accountability, they're in constant programming for their recovery of various types. And they have all the partners in place to provide this and to move this forward. So, any questions?
And I want to acknowledge that Sheriff Ron Heek, Chief Marty Corley, and Chief Dick Buell have all signed letters of support for this for our county.
Is this a nonprofit organization?
Yes.
So it's gonna be tax exempt?
Yes.
So I just want to say that I really want to appreciate the Franciscan Alliance for the generous donation of this land. I support this, you know, this is right in my neighborhood. I walk by this all the time. We're not getting anything that we haven't already had in the past. For decades, they had the rehab unit at the former St. Anthony Hospital. That's gone now. But back in the 90s, there's the old Garfield Elementary School at 11th in Ohio. That was packed. And we got that, the city got that, they tore down the old school building, that's when they built fire station number 1. So, you know, we need to get these men's lives straightened around, and I really support this. And furthermore, we're starting to get that, the St. Anthony Hospital site developed. I don't want that to stay as a greenfield site for you got another 20 acres there across the street, we need to get that developed. I know that's private property, their private land, it's up to them to do with it, but they got all these other hospitals. 12-year 2010, they tore down the old Portland Memorial. That's still a big old greenfield site right there in Valpo. I just want to, you know, our zoning ordinance does call for daycare centers and group homes. I used to have one right down on the opposite end of my block. My sister operated. She relocated over to the boulevard. So I just want I know that Hunter Blaine's doing this. We know it's going to be up in operation very soon, just like they did the hospital. Once they start building a new hospital with no time at all.
That's
So I just
amazing.
want to wish y'all the best, and a safe and successful project. Thank you.
All right. So, yes, sir.
Yeah, I was on the committee when it first got started, the respite committee, and I visited the respite 1 over in Valparaiso.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm Don Problinski, I'm on the city council. And yeah, that facility, and you were there the day we visited,
Yep.
and you gave a presentation and everything that goes on there. Yeah, very nice facility, and I'm sure what you're saying about the location and what goes on there is possibly true. What my concern is here in Michigan City, and I guess my first question is I know that this was, and correct me if I'm wrong, that when this initially started, this was going to be built in LaPorte, possibly?
There was never a site, and that was part of the issue, is trying to identify a location.
Okay, and then from there, it was gonna be in the county somewhere?
I
Is
don't
that?
think that was ever a plan we wanted. Many of these men do not have transportation, so we wanted it somewhere that would be on a bus route, so that
Okay.
they could find a job, or get to and from work.
Okay, so then that brings me to my question is, and I have talked to some of the residents that live in that neighborhood, and I'm very familiar with that neighborhood. But what I see is there would be a concentration of social facilities, I guess you want to say, and I don't know, how well that goes for real estate, property values, because you'd have this facility on the corner of Ann Street and Wabash, and then you have the Keys to Holtz, which is located 3.5 blocks away to the south, and then you have the Salvation Army 3.5 blocks to the north. And that's what my concern is for that particular neighborhood. And let me just finish. And I could probably understand that the hospital is donating the property, okay, probably, and that's why this wound up where it's gonna go. So I can understand that from a cost standpoint. But my concern is that this part of town is gonna be infiltrated with social services, and I don't know what effect that'll have on the real estate market in what's called now the Midtown area of Michigan City.
Okay. Well,
Can I address? I know that Keys to Hope, particularly, is a drop-in site for individuals who have some housing challenges. It's a different clientele than what we would be proposing to serve in this facility. These men would be, I think, further along in their recovery. I think many of the individuals who stop at Keys to Hope, for lack of a better word, are experiencing homelessness. Same thing with Sandcastle and Salvation Army for their meals and drop-in site. So I do hear and understand some of your concerns as far as that, but a little bit of a different clientele.
I haven't found that to be an issue. They put us in, both of our facilities are located in neighborhoods, surrounded by houses. And while there's some complaint from some individuals, who I won't try to define because I can't, that all of these services are located on the hill in Valpo. All the different halfway houses. It's really, this is a new facility. Walking by it, they're not congregating outside. These people are in programs, they're in meetings, they're going out to meetings, they work, they're going to work. They're not just, we don't let them, they don't even watch TV during the day. So, we're facilitating a process of recovery, which means getting engaged, getting reintegrated into the community, into the workforce, into the recovery community. And quite frankly, these people are in the neighborhood anyway. So I don't know that I can address your issue from a real estate, I'm not a real estate person, but from a practical standpoint, that has never been an issue for us. And I believe that the design called for a fenced area in the back for smoking and things of that nature. So they won't even be outside smoking because, quite frankly, too many of them smoke, and that's something they'll get over eventually. But that has not been an issue. Where we're located isn't an issue. Sheriff, is there anything?
I can't comment on property values, other than what I can tell you is when you drive by Respite 2, based on where it is, you wouldn't know that it was anything other than a residence. I mean, it looks nice.
It looks like a
matches the decor.
duplex.
Yeah, it matches the decor of the community.
And the initial budget was, I think, a $1.5 million budget. So to put that type of home in a neighborhood where many of the other homes may not be at 1.5 million, it may possibly increase property value.
I have a question in regards to, you just mentioned that it's a $1.5 million budget or project.
It may, I think we'll defer to when Tom and Mike do their presentation. I think there's been some adjustments on those.
So, based off of whatever those new adjustments are gonna be, then being on the city finance committee, my question is, what is the ask from the city, Michigan City, or from the council?
The ask from the council, when we go to the council, will be out of opioid settlement money, where the opioid settlement money has specific uses. And out of those dollars, we'd be asking for $250,000.
Something that probably would help is when John Gilmore explains the concept in the building that we're talking about. I think you're gonna find out that it's gonna enhance the neighborhood, it's certainly not gonna take away from it whatsoever. I don't see a real estate problem in Fremont at all. I'd be concerned about it if I was you, if it was my neighborhood, I'd want to know the same thing. Well, why don't you let John tell a story, and then I'll tell you how we kinda got there. It might help some of these questions that folks might be thinking about.
The gentleman in the back had a question, I think, too.
Let's finish this and then we'll come back.
Okay,
I just wanted to thank you for coming over from.
Oh. it's my pleasure. I wouldn't miss this.
And what is the age?
Adult males,
No, the age limit. What's the age?
The limit,
Be able to say.
I believe, how long or
The age of the
I
young.
think it's 65, but I really just, I don't know,
What's the youngest?
18.
18,
They have to be
65.
adults.
Okay.
But the average, if you want to know the truth, the average is 22 to 35. It's kind of gone up over the years, it used to be a little lower. And quite frankly, we do have some in their 60s now, over the last few years. A lot of substance users don't live that long, in all honesty. Yes, it is.
I was gonna say, we just need to, it's gotta be here to stay, we just don't want it going away. We want it here for years to come, okay?
well, and
We don't wanna lose it like we've done all the others.
sir, that is why Recovery Works is funding that will help once the state certifies it.
We're gonna put all this money into it, we want it here to stay.
I agree with you.
So, I met Mitch a couple years ago with Mayor Costas, and we worked with them to build the homeless shelter in Valpo, which was a great success. So we hope this is gonna be the same way. And with Tunnel Blank and Franciscan involved, I can assure you that if we start this project, it'll get done, okay? And it'll be really, really nice, and it'll be nicer than most of the houses in the neighborhood, to be frank. This is a $3 million project. Okay, this is $3 million we're putting on that corner. And we hope to get at least $1 million of that donated through Ton and Blank and through our vendors and through the unions. That's the model that we used in Valpo to build that one. And everyone stepped up because, again, everyone has a stake in this. Yes, sir.
Real quickly, what type of structure are you proposing to build? What are we talking?
It'll be a residential wood home.
There's,
Yeah, there was similar to that.
Yeah, I don't have the.
That's not $1 million.
No, that one.
Well, remember, this is a little different than your regular home because it's got a commercial kitchen in it.
And a bunch of bedrooms.
It's got a fire suppression system.
We gotta put a parking lot.
Okay, so it's, but from the outside, it's a residential look. And there's gonna be no basement in this one. That has a walkout basement
So
that you
something
can't see.
similar to
It's
that.
gonna look similar to that, right?
This house gonna go on the north parcel, and the parking lot's gonna be the south parcel,
Correct.
and then we're gonna have to vacate the alley in between?
No, we're not gonna ask for that. We don't need to.
Okay.
The handicap parking will be up by the house, and then across the street will be parking for residents or
It doesn't
visitors.
look good for us to have all those social services in Valpo, we need them here.
I need them both places. But yeah, so we believe we can raise $1 million just through our trade partners. We've already agreed to donate all of the architectural and engineering services so that we can get to, the point where we can pull the permits and get the vendors and trades involved. Like I said, they're all excited about it. Joe Core, he's our guy. He goes out and does the ask. I know this is going to be a very successful project, but there's a $2 million gap we got to fill. We got $750,000 from the county. We hope to get some from the city. To add to the cost of this project is the cost of the land that Franciscan has agreed to donate if and when there's a project. Okay, so they haven't donated the property yet, but they will. I've got a letter signed by my boss, because Ton of Money's owned by Franciscan, that says if this project becomes real and John says it's real, then we'll donate the property. So it's exciting. As Mickey said, this affects everyone. Okay, my son's an addict, close to my heart. He's from LaPorte County. There wasn't a respite house for him to go to in LaPorte County. He's living at the one in Porter County, and it's what he needed. For 10 years, I talked to Dr. Cora, he helped me. Joe Cora helped me. Everyone tried to help my son. This is the first time he's been clean. And believe me, the house is fine. It could be in my front yard. There's no danger there. There are no drugs there. They drug test these guys like every other day. So I'm all for it, and we'll deliver it if it's approved to move forward.
And we have the $750 commitment from the county.
County, see it in an opioid.
Yes, sir.
Here's another thing to remember. There was an article in the New York Times about this type of spending, and they looked at the block. And all the services that were going to that block, emergency services, police responses, and so forth, I think they call it $1 million block. So the thing to remember is we as a society are paying for this already. Just not necessarily in a place where people can be helped.
That's what Judge Gent told the council when we went in front of them, the county council, for Westwood House 1. She looked at Rita Stevenson, it was 2009, and she said, Rita, she was the drug court judge then, Rita, you're gonna pay now, or you're gonna pay later, but you're gonna pay. And they wrote me a check, and that's how we looked at the first one.
And I know Ms. Tolman works in the child support division. She probably sees the lack of father involvement and the impact on children. And by helping these men become contributing members of our community, the ripple effect in terms of becoming better fathers, better citizens. And
I know that was one of my questions. As of right now, it only houses up to 20 individuals. And if this becomes so promising, I would like to see for this to expand at some point as a referral or resource that we can also refer individuals, or if we're to court and we try to help them or get into a better payment plan. But if they have these other disabilities, so to speak, it's not going to help if they're not getting the treatment or is in an environment to help them to develop or to become better fathers or mothers. Well, but this is not a women's facility, I understand that. Hopefully that will forthcome.
That's down the road.
Yes, so.
Well, and we've expanded, we've opened 2, then we downsized back to 1, we took over the women's halfway house, so now we're running the women's house. Then, we built a homeless shelter, and I mean, it grows, and you provide services across the board, and it does take time. I mean, 15 years we've been doing this, and, and my next project is going to be a women's halfway house.
Well, they got the line for it.
You look through the years at just Doombrick facility. We donated Doombrick, 35, 40 years ago. We've been involved with that twice to get into where we're at today. And you look at what they do today compared to when they had 5 or 6 people in an office sharing a 10 by 12 room, 3 to a room with 3 desks, and look at the facility they have now. But look at the territory that they cover. I remember when that all started, they were really concerned that they could get backed up by the community. And the community did get behind them, so did the state of Indiana, and so did the federal government. And now you look at Dunebrook today, and look at what they do, and they're quite honest, they're on the list. If you don't mind, I kind of like to tell the story a little bit how we got started.
Yeah, well, one last thing, Joe. So, Joe has lived in Michigan City his whole life. He used to tell me he's from Canada, and I was like, what do you mean, Canada? But Canada,
Blue Chips, you know.
Michigan City. And for what it's worth, I mean, this means something to me too, because I was born at St. Anthony Hospital, right there. And I'm a lifetime LaPorte County resident, so is my wife, so are my children. So we need this in our county, and hopefully we can make it happen.
I just have a couple of comments, and then Joe, I'll turn it over to you. In my day job, I work as a physician on the city council, and what I see happening is we see patients coming to the hospital, we treat them, we discharge them, and within a week they're back in the emergency. It's like a revolving door, just keep happening. But we need to break the cycle. We need to break the cycle. And this is really, to the magnitude of the problem I see, this is really a small piece of what we can do. Probably more needs to be done, but at least it's the big, it's a start, it's a big. And so I think I appreciate you coming over from Porter County and Greta and Vicky are all taking the initiative for doing this. And Tony Blank, John, for stepping up and helping put this together. I think it'll be a phenomenal success. Having practiced for close to 40 years, I can tell you that this will change the lives of those 20 people for sure. But there'll be need for a lot more.
If I could just say one thing too. I'm not sure who, if anybody, Katie was at the drug court graduation last night. It's going to be on YouTube, Alco TV recorded it. If you watch that drug court graduation, you will get an idea of what a changed person looks like. Those people were lucky enough that they had a support system that could surround them and keep them safe while they participated in this program. But not everybody has that. And that's where this comes in. It is designed for folks who, for whatever reason, the support system they have is not going to be what they need at that point in their recovery. And so this is why we need this. And again, if you go on Alco in the next, 10 days, and you look YouTube for Problem Solving for Graduation March 4th, you'll probably be able to find it. It's about an hour and 10 minutes. And it's worth watching. It's worth watching.
Yeah, so my part of this started out with John Gilmore put me on a Tunnel Blank team and said, I want to raise some money to build this respite house. And he said, a guy by the name of Mitch Peter in Valparaiso, he's an attorney. And so I decided to go over to Valparaiso and go through a respite house. I probably went through the same one that you visited. They had not a clue I was coming. I was looking for Mitch, didn't realize Mitch wasn't in the respite house. The young man that was running that facility was right on target. The place was clean, it was neat, people were being taken care of. There was nobody standing outside talking or gawking or anything like that. They were all organized. So I wanted to have that information before I went out and hit people up for funds. And I can tell you that the environment out there with the right people want to help contribute to something like this. I get asked every day, when are you going to come and see about the respite house in Michigan City? And I need to get started, but it's only if y'all turn around and say, hey, let's go. So anyway, as I went through this process, I'm very, very fortunate. The building trades played a big part in this, as did Tunnel Blank. It would have never happened without Tunnel Blank dedication and supervision, period. Wouldn't have happened. The building trades came in, not only did it give us financial help, they were there doing extra over and above, the electricians, the carpenters. the cement finishers, the HVAC guys, the plumbers, all of them, the pipe fitters. And even yet today on this little items that we're trying to finish, they're still helping.
Operators.
Mayor Costas,
Laborers.
yeah,
Operators and laborers don't.
operating labor, yeah.
No strike.
We set trusses on a Saturday. Guess who came and helped us set trusses on a Saturday in Valparaiso on that facility? Mitch Peters himself and Mayor Costas with his grandkids. Took the cables from the crane and was hooking up roof trusses. So it just goes to show you that people at a higher level, they really do care. And they know that this is something really good for their community. And I'm sure you're gonna get the same effect right here, not just the county, but probably Angie Nelson Doris, Tom Dermy from LaPorte, and whoever else. So as we're building this facility, a little to my awareness, I never did know who they were, but we actually had kids from the respite house that came out there and actually helped build the place. And I never knew who they were. And nobody at Ton of Mike knew who they were, because that guy didn't want us to know who they were. We would have felt different. Think about it. All of a sudden, here comes somebody out of respite house, you've been on drugs and everything, you probably would have sat back and said, I don't want to work with that guy. Folks, we never had a problem whatsoever with those kids. During the fundraising process, there was one young man that donated the guttering for the respite house in Valparaiso. You know why he donated the guttering? Just a small guy, works out of a pickup truck. He wanted to donate it because he was one of Mitch's patients that got rehabbed in his facility. He was so appreciative they had a new life that he wanted to pay back other people to give them a chance. So he donated all the guttering. This is not a small facility. This is a pretty good sized facility. As John said, $3 million. It's not an odd looking donate that's going to be sitting there. It's going to look just like the rest of the residents, only it's going to be new. It's going to be brand new. But the function and what it does and how it takes care of people. I said, Dr. Corey, you're right on board. This is exactly what needs to happen. John's son, unfortunately, he mentioned it too. John went through this personally. And yes, we got real personal with all that. We all grew up together. And that's the last thing we want to have happen, to get that bad phone call, period. We have a chance to make a difference right here in LaPorte County. This is all true stories that I'm telling you. And if anybody would like to have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them.
No, I'm just,
You okay, anybody?
I'm all right.
One other thing I should mention is the group's plan is to have neighborhood meetings, a couple of neighborhood meetings set up. We're looking hopefully maybe in the first week of April. Our goal is to have a day meeting and a night meeting, so we can accommodate neighbors who work different shifts, to try to answer questions for them. Because this is essentially city council, but we want the neighbors to understand too.
I actually provided to Nikki a list of our town halls that we have coming up. If this would be a great opportunity to get it out in the community as a whole, and some of the key areas where the facility would be located, we're going to have a few town hall meetings as well for those. So,
In addition to.
Okay. Everything else that will be discussed at that time.
How you doing? I'm Donnie. I wanted to just speak from the other side. I am in long-term recovery. I suffered through addictions for over 25 years, but life can change. I am a national certified peer recovery coach. I work at the Swanson Center, and I'm also the founder of the Where We Are in Recovery Cafe here in LaPorte County. I work with Judge Mickey, see with the whole support system. And one of the factors that I come across as I work with these people on a daily basis is we trying to tell them to get to a meeting or get to this, and the barrier is we don't have nowhere to sleep at night. So you can change. You can change. I was in addiction for a long time. This year I'll be celebrating 9 years. I actually worked for the Swanson Center, and I'm also a founder. After being a 25-year drug abuser, so life can happen. It can happen, and it's worth happening. And I'm behind this 110% because I was the one that has a problem.
Do you have any kind of start date or completion date on this?
What's that? I can't hear, but
What's sort of your start date and completion date on
I'd like to
this?
start tomorrow, but someone got to say, let's go.
Tommy, he needs $2 million to start out.
I think early spring would be my guess, but I don't want to speak for John. We got a lot of roads are open, don't we?
We're here to get the necessary approvals.
Right. Tell us we can go and we'll start right away. The other success story, folks, in Valparaiso is that I am adamant on career centers, and Valparaiso has a state-of-the-art career center. They have many supervisors that take care of the career center. They came to the respite house. They installed windows, they did electrical, they did the siding, they did things, and we were able to teach them. But the more important part of that story, these kids are there for a reason, and trust me. They wound up in the respite house doing it the hard way. They just as soon graduate from school, so these young kids are exposed to all that. These apprentices that go through the apprenticeship school, they're exposed to all that. What effect does it have on them? I think it has a good effect on them. I think it'll help straighten a lot of them up. I think it's a, well, lack of better words, Dr. Ford, but I'll call it a good cancer to have. It's one that will grow, and we just need to get started. So I'm anxious to raise money. And if you keep me too long, I'm gonna ask for all your phone numbers.
Katie?
Coming from the treatment perspective side, when you look at where these overdoses and all these calls are coming from, and say we need more services, or we need a place to provide additional services. As the director of our community mental health center, I will tell you that there is enough work, and plenty of work, for probably 5 more community mental health centers in our community. We need the assistance to work with other entities, and so that's why Swanson Center is extremely supportive of this initiative, because we know that we can't do it by ourselves. I can provide individual and group therapy, family therapy to individuals, and then one of the things that we know, and Judge Friedman, this is one thing that we've talked about in our training for drug court, is without the pillar of the supportive housing, the work that you're doing, it negates everything. So you are providing treatment, I'm providing individual therapy to individuals, but I'm sending them back where? To an unsupportive environment, to where they are exposed to either additional substances or people who are not supportive of their recovery. So this is an opportunity to combine not only treatment from other entities, but also the treatment that could be provided in this home. So be working collaboratively with a number of entities in our county.
And I'll throw in
Somebody that's there.
My name's Paul Krasnolensky, and I live in that area, and I've been a lifelong resident of that area, and represented the area on the city council for I think 26 years at various times. And from talking to all the residents as going door to door, and as the hospital tore down the facility, that they, and hopefully somebody can take this back to Dean, that the community was looking for a neighborhood park there. So now, we want to put a rehab center in there. So I think it's only intuitive to do that for the neighborhood, all right? That the neighborhood would like a community park in there. If you want to build that facility, and I'm speaking from what I know, is that being involved with a program that was out of Porter Stark Services called a Union Counselors Program, when they brought in people to educate us on alcoholism, drug abuse, family problems. For over 18 years, I've helped people in where I work, and we established a program out there where we actually had certified recovered alcoholics working with our union members at work. I'm also, was on the Swanson board for a long time. So, you know, I got the information and you guys have been working on this for a long time. So I'm here telling you that the neighborhood wants a community park in there. You guys want something, they want something. But if I go back and tell them, this is what's going down, this is what's going down in your neighborhood, you guys have been working on this for a long time. And I'm also gonna speak of, I have personally individuals that have been in and out of the system. And is in a state of needing severe rehab. Okay, and so I speak from my own personal experiences, and you know, I'm skeptical. But I mean, for me, I think it's worthwhile to, you know, bring something back to the community besides just the center. And I would like to know, is there gonna be an additional building planning to be built there? Because there's a lot of land there.
Let me answer that if I can. Paul, I want to make sure you understand, we've been talking about this. Mayor Deutsch was on it, Don was on it, we've had various people who've been on for years talking about this, but we had no site. So we talked about the county. Okay, well, the places that would potentially get don't have water and sewage. Other places have no transportation. We looked at LaPorte. We really didn't get a lot of response. We looked over here. We didn't get a lot of response. That was where we were stuck. We had the willpower, and we had the energy to do it. We didn't have a place. So we were told, with the opioid money, that if you came up with a budget, and when I say we were told by the county county council, who has restricted opioid funding, unrestricted. Restricted can only be used for a very few things, this type of project being one of them. Unrestricted can be used for lots of things. So we were told, if you come to us with a budget, and mind you, the money had to be allocated by the end of '24. If you come to us with a budget, then off we go. We'll worry about a site later. That's not what happened. As we were getting ready to go and ask, a week before, we were told, yeah, no, you gotta have a site. You gotta have a site or we're not gonna get money. So then we were scrambling. And Franciscan graciously stepped up and said, you know, we have 5 lots there. So maybe there's room for a park. We got 5 lots and let's talk. And we did. And thanks to Dr. Cora, to John, to Joe, that came together as a spot. And Mitch has been involved with this program, you know, us for years. I went to law school with Mitch. Mitch is the kind of a guy you want on your side. I know very few people as dedicated to whatever he's focused on. And I've seen Respite 1 about 13 years ago. Saw Respite 2. He's now taken on, as he said, a different animal completely, a homeless shelter. But he's also now working on a women's shelter. Wouldn't it be lovely if this program came together and people said, you know, this can work. And then we take a women's shelter to LaPorte. Wouldn't that be nice? Because this is going to serve everybody. Yes, there are people who will live in this community, but it is for that county. So there are people in South County, there are people in Lake, there are people in Long Beach who need this. And I hope that answers your question, that there was not some kind of surreptitious plotting for years to take this land. And there's, okay,
I totally am not, if that's the way you interpret it, Judge Freeman, that's not the right
Okay.
interpretation.
okay, good.
Because all I'm looking at is the letters and dates on letters of when all these letters came in of October of last year.
Correct.
And, I haven't seen anything, heard anything on the news about it, so that's how I'm speaking from my perspective. But I will say this, it's just like my brother talked about, the Midtown area has been, I deal with it every day, okay? I deal with it every day on Franklin Street, fights out there, constant, and I understand the medical calls, but here's what I'm saying. My daughter won't even come to Michigan City, okay? And now I'm gonna tell her that there's gonna be a rehab, that's what they're gonna do at St. Anthony's Hospital. You know how much that, now I'm talking about just me, Paul A. But I don't know what the rest, I know what the rest of the people said around there. And when a neighbor exposed how they changed the zoning of 300 partials in there to medical without letting the neighborhood know. Okay? And a lot of people didn't understand what we were doing on the city council to rechange that zoning that they had slipped through. Not notifying one partial. So I just want to say this, is that we spoke about a park at at that property. And I know that the majority of the people that surround that would, to be a good community citizen, would really appreciate a park, a piece of tranquility in there. And that's what I'm saying, and I know that a lot of people, from what I've talked to them, and that's what I come here to represent, because this is the opportunity that you're having an open discussion. And that's, I just think that, you know, one hand washes the other in this world. And that's what the community wants.
You know, one thing I would say is, I don't think you have the capacity to organize a park there. You are trying to do this. But I think this is something we will discuss and we will pass it on to.
And that's exactly why we want to have neighborhood meetings,
Yeah.
so we can meet the individuals in those neighborhoods.
And the intent is to, from Beacon, get the address list of all the residents and invite them to either daytime or evening meeting to answer any questions they may have. And talk and hear their concerns.
Well, I'm just saying that I know what a lot of them, you know, wanted to see happen over there, and it hasn't come to fruition, and now this is going in, and I respectfully disagree with Joe that I think it will affect property values, no matter if you spend $2 million on that, because it's not for profit. And I understand the good intention, and I understand the facility. You make a good presentation on the need, and people can go on the internet and know what you have in the neighborhood when you look at a home. That's what I'm saying. So I'm speaking as a past elected representative, let me finish, Joe, and a resident, a lifelong resident of that area. And I don't think a lot of those people really realize what's going on. I really don't. I mean, I didn't know what was going on. Somebody called me up about it.
Just one comment, not so much about the project and what's going on here this evening, but for the sake of the city council, you know, I know other council members had to work, or why they weren't here at the meeting, I don't know. But I think it would be a good idea if we bring the presentation to the city council so they hear it firsthand exactly what was said here tonight. Okay, it could be a condensed version or what have you. But yeah, I mean, you're gonna have 4 other council members that weren't even here, and they're gonna be voting on what? They won't know exactly. Not unless they go to a neighborhood meeting, but you can't guarantee that either. But if you bring it to a city council meeting, yeah, a 45-minute presentation is not gonna hurt anybody when you're trying to make an investment like this into the community, both from a financial standpoint and a mental health standpoint and a societal standpoint to get things, try to help other people. So I think that would be a good suggestion, Madam President.
Mr. Kalabic had his hand up, and then I'll go to Dr. Cora.
I don't want to make a statement about what Councilman Przybylski said about people wanting to park. You know, you always have tax sales every year. There's all kinds of open lots. If anybody wants a place for their children to go play or their families or to have a barbecue and picnics, it's a very Michigan City thing for us to do. You go and buy your lot, you can have that for you. You don't have to have that. I said that's St. Anthony's land, and it's up to them to do it. There's a separation between government and private ownership, or the Franciscan. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Cora.
One other suggestion I have is maybe we should at least organize a trip to the Respite House in Valparaiso for the city council members. And whoever is interested will come. I think it's nothing like seeing it for yourself. Thank you.
You gotta come see the homeless shelter too. And it's really nice.
Mr. Przybylski, you have something?
No,
Okay.
I'm just sitting here.
I have 2 comments and 2 quick questions. One comment is, these are the residents of this facility are the ones that can be saved, if you will. That's the, hopefully not the wrong terminology. These are the ones that have a chance to make it. 2, the location fits the historic need, the historic use of that property, the sisters, the Franciscan Sisters, our charitable healthcare organization. So this fits the thing. Also, the map you showed of the needles, it was a bullseye. So I don't know if it's good that you're where the people need it, or because then you're not separated from your bad elements. The 2 questions are: what does it take to get to self-sufficiency? And what are the measures of success? What kind of success do you see at these current respite houses as far as how many men make it, graduate?
We're looking at using a variety of different mental health and substance use assessment instruments where we would monitor their progress at baseline, upon entry, and screen to get in, and then periodically 90, 180, and at exit point. Probably the biggest measure of success is those who maintain sobriety. There, as Mitch does, drug screenings, there are random screenings throughout. So the absence of any type of positive drug screen would be an indicator of success. Also using the standard mental health assessment instruments to measure their progress, achievement of their goals. Do they get their GED? Did they pass a college class? Are they starting to pay child support? Are they employed 35 or more hours a week? Is Joe going to hire them?
Are there any 1, 3, and 5 year kind of studies of?
There aren't, and I think Judge would be also aware of this being problems on the court. But I mean, they have to, you're trying to change their thinking and change their behavior.
That's hard.
It is. And sometimes you're only planting seeds. Sometimes those seeds grow at a later date. I, for instance, went through treatment 4 times. I was homeless with a law degree. I couldn't even get a job once I got clean. And it took a year of living on a basement floor. So, you know, it takes what it takes to get clean, but then it takes what it takes to stay clean as well. We're teaching them a new way of life. I'll give you a quick for instance. Young kid lived at the house for a year. Got out, graduated, did great. a week later, overdosed and died. And his mom was from the University of Notre Dame, and they lived in Syracuse. She planned a funeral in Valpo for all of the recovery community. And so I'm going there with my ex-wife who runs these things. And I'm like really nervous, and I'm like, wow, what do you say? And I went in and told her how sorry, and that we wish things could have been different. And she told me, we were blessed. He knows for the last year that he was loved. He knows that he was loved. And he reconnected with his family during that year. He made some bad choices when he left the house. And she had them make donations to the house in lieu of, flowers. She gave us his car. We sold his car and donated money back. I mean, how do you measure success? You do the best you can. We don't do a lot of tracking, but we have a lot of success stories, and we have people that go back to jail and then become successful in their recovery. It's a nebulous concept. I would say we measure our success in moments. That's what I've said. And I did an album, and that's what I titled it, Measured in Moments.
I would like to, I know that it's about 6:30, almost close to 6:30, and I would just like to have any closing remarks by Ms. Vicki before we wrap this up for the evening. But I also would just like to say thank you for all that have come out, that has traveled into Michigan City to give your views. Thank you for sharing your personal stories with us as well. I know that the mayor will be in touch, or we will have a conversation in regards to this, to see where things stand. And with that being said,
I think in terms of some of our next steps, what we had hoped for is, again, to be transparent with the community and open it up for community town hall meetings, not only the bigger ones that the city has planned, but the ones that are more specific to the neighborhood, specific to that ward, to invite those residents to come out daytime or evening hours, possibly having it at, someone suggested, well, maybe at the church as one possibility. Or also at the old hospital in your conference room. But there's some options there, and determining a date for when that will occur, so that if people have concerns. I think misinformation gets people scared because they don't know what this is going to look like and what it will be like, how they can potentially be involved in a good way. But I guess what is our legacy for Michigan City? At this point, we don't have anything.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.
Chelsea.